Sometimes the more you understand your offense and your philosophy, the easier it is to see how a defense is going to play you or could play you. And so it all starts to simplify a little bit as you gain more just understanding of your offense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Completely in control of your own domain. You're looking at these defenses and they all look different. But the more you really understand what you're doing and simplify what you're doing, and that's something we've tried to do from a formational standpoint, is simplify that. Now we feel like we've simplified the looks of a defense, and we can, figure out ways to attack them or get a better understanding of how they're going to defend us quick. We find that information quicker, we feel.
And just to pick up on that, Steve, one of the things I've always been impressed with you is you're a very organized person, very structured, and very well thought out. And as you approach things and you attack things. And so I'm thinking about going into a game and the work that you're doing and how your mind works in terms of looking at an opponent. How are you trying to really get an idea of looking at that opponent?
Yeah. So a quick example would be, the 2017 Vanier Cup. And we start to look at Laval's defense in the previous, 3 games, and you're just seeing all these different things. So many different coverages and fronts and ways the defense is playing, and you're going, holy, this is a lot of information to take in a short period of time. And then you start to sort that of how they've defended just the style of football you play. And let's look at maybe our 2 most prevalent formations that we're going to use maybe over 80% of the game. Let's just sort that information. And all of a sudden we entered this world of simplicity, and this isn't difficult at all. We know exactly how they could play us and are going to play us, and it allowed us to move forward with a more efficient game plan. So for me, offensively, when you're looking at a defense, I think it's nice to have formations that kind of trigger a defensive response. And the defensive response for me that I like to look at is the Sam position a lot of the time. Can we trigger a response that might bring the Sam out of his home position, which is essentially being over the number 3 strong receiver or kind of being in that field, C gap, B gap. And what formations or what looks that we could present that might force him to either stay there and give us a numerical advantage somewhere else or move now and open up space, So that's something we look for. And then the same thing with the boundary halfback. You look for those same type of adjustments. Are we able to formation where that boundary halfback now has to make an adjustment from his home position, and come across the field or work high, or does he stay in his home position and give you a numerical advantage somewhere else? So those are things we look for, and that's how I like to look at offensive football and defensive football. It's a pretty simple way to do it too, but it can be really effective.
Fantastic. And I got another question off of that, just for some young coaches listening to this podcast. They often have that delicate balance between the number of plays that they're trying to run versus, trying to do something well. So any advice to some of the younger coaches as they're trying to think about designing their offenses in particular?
Yeah. So absolutely. Everybody talks about kind of less is better. And it's so true. When you start to get into more things, you want those things to have a purpose. You want to establish your core philosophy and your core offensive concepts, and you want to keep those minimal. And then as you start to build things onto that, they have to have a purpose. They're there to protect and kind of work off of one of your core elements and expose the defense in a certain way. And they may be game plan specific, but even breaking down our offense from this past year, you look at our run game and our kind of core 3 run plays were all pretty successful. And then you look at the one-offs and, there wasn't a ton of success there. The one-offs didn't have enough purpose. The one-offs that had a true purpose where they were designed to exploit, a certain thing in a defense and they were called when that presented itself, they were successful. But when they were just called and they were just one-offs that looked cool on paper, they didn't work very well. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, you find your 3 core run principles, concepts that you're going to run, and that's it, and then you might have some little one-offs that work off of them, but you're only calling those when it's a little bit more calculated.